Authentic assessment is also known as formative assessment or performance-based assessment. So if you hear either of those terms, they're really talking about authentic assessment. Authentic assessments are designed by teachers, and they focus on the students performing the task of reading or writing, whatever we want them to do in reading and writing. And by seeing them do the task, we know that they understand and have mastered it. Also, authentic assessment drives our instruction because we can see what students cannot do, and we know those deficiencies will be what we need to plan to move into next. Students also are very aware of authentic assessment. Now, they might not always know we're assessing them because it is done so naturally, but they understand through authentic assessment what criteria we're looking for when we do tell them that we're assessing them. And so a lot of times I know, especially in my reading or writing workshop time, I would tell them, I'm looking on my rubric to score your writing today, and to get an advanced score you need 16 points, and I'm going to be scoring your focus and your content, and I go through the different categories, and we talk about it. They see the rubric that I use, and they have an awareness of what they need to do. This is great because, again, that metacognition. What parts of this activity do I understand as the student, and what parts do I need to keep working on? That gives them goals and helps drive their learning. Also, by sharing with them the tools we use to evaluate them, they can begin to self-assess their own learning. And we saw that with fluency last week, where the boys and girls were in the listening center and they were listening to themselves read and to a partner read. And from that information, they were scoring themselves. That self-awareness and self-assessment is a very important cognitive process and leads to better learners and more proficient students. So teachers also can use authentic assessment to document growth, because we see if we give them a task in October and we give them the same task in November and we give them the same task in December, we can document that growth and how their levels have changed on similar tasks. When you give a test that's always different, you can't do that because the criteria is always changing, or if it's multiple choice, you don't even see the work. My daughter today said she took her benchmark for math, and she said, I scored 8.7 points higher on the computer than I did last month. And I said, that's fantastic. I said, what did you do better? She said, I don't know. I don't get a score report. It's in the computer. And I said, well, she said, I missed one question. I know that much. And I said, well, what area of math did you miss? And she said, I don't know. It doesn't tell us. So she can't learn from that. We can't compare last month to this month other than a number. But again, what does the number tell us? So teachers want authentic tasks that will drive their instruction and help our learners take ownership in their own learning. Now, authentic assessment is usually informal, as we'll see later on in the slides what that means. But there are forms of formal authentic assessments. And this would not be formal as in a test, but things like reading tests that you are giving formalized instructions because it's a more standardized reading assessment, but it cannot be authentic assessment if they're not doing a real task. So taking a test is not a real task. So we really want anything that's real, like reading out loud or writing a story or completing a project or doing a retelling to check comprehension or sequencing story elements. Whatever it is, they're actually doing it, and that's what we are assessing.